Hafaday, this is Congressman Michael Nicholas. Our veterans deserve the best, and I'm working hard to make sure they receive what they earned defending our freedom. If you need help receiving the benefits you earned from the VA or the Defense Department, please call my office at 475-6453 or go online at stnicholas.house.gov. On behalf of a grateful community, thank you for your service.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael Nicholas.
Hafaday, this is Congressman Michael Nicholas. Our veterans deserve the best, and I'm working hard to make sure they receive what they earned defending our freedom. If you need help receiving the benefits you earned from the VA or the Defense Department, please call my office at 475-6453 or go online at stnicholas.house.gov. On behalf of a grateful community, thank you for your service.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael Nicholas.
Hafaday, this is Congressman Michael Nicholas. Our veterans deserve the best, and I'm working hard to make sure they receive what they earned defending our freedom. If you need help receiving the benefits you earned from the VA or the Defense Department, please call my office at 475-6453 or go online at stnicholas.house.gov. On behalf of a grateful community, thank you for your service.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael Nicholas.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, we tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
After Guam, si Rod's Gimpap introducing the 2020 Toyota Tacoma Access Cab T-Max. Este na mês, gasto mo yung promo ng United Airlines, $1,000 United vouchers. Often ang nangga, sabik sa sating mamanono si Tacoma, Guam, Tacoma territory. Text si Rod's, ginagi Atkins Pro Toyota, 671-788-2584. Alumbray, go si Rod's, sinanagan sa 671-788-2584. Often ang nangga, let's go places.
This evening's show is brought to you by Brood Awakenings.
And I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
Welcome to our studios here in Tumon, Guam. It is Wednesday, March 4. Very happy birthday to my Auntie Mary Roberto, whose son John Roberto just celebrated his birthday, his 40th birthday yesterday. Now, Auntie Mary has the distinction of being younger than her own son. She turns 24 today.
Oh, happy birthday, Auntie Mary and cousin John.
Cousin John, primo. We were best friends in elementary school, going into middle school. Anyway, so we have, earlier today, we had a show at Brood Awakenings, and I don't know what happened, but it casted to my personal Facebook profile. Like, I swear to God, I clicked on the page and everything, but we discussed the goings on at the Guam National Guard for the first time, a little in depth about the sexism and racism going on there and its history and, well, kind of legacy of fraternization that has been going on, and this attempt by the Good Old Boys Club to upstage Adjutant General Esther Agigi because she's a woman, and to upstage her chief of staff because he is a quote-unquote outsider. If you want to see more on that, just go to my personal profile and you'll see the show that's there. It was from Brood Awakenings. We're repeating our sponsorship of Brood Awakenings tonight because we wanted to make sure that it was on the show. So thank you very much to Brood Awakenings, the best coffee shop on this island that sells the best sandwiches and chachalons and mango danishes.
Yes.
And I had, as usual, I have the turkey sandwich when I go there. I did the roast beef once and it was good.
The roast beef today was, oh my God.
The chachalons today. Where
I finished it. I accidentally took it.
Well, you don't gain weight.
I do.
I'll trip you right now. I'll trip you right now. Every time I walk into Brood Awakenings, I walk out, and I'm like that much more unable to make fat jokes anymore because I've joined the Fat Joke Club. So, anyway, thanks for joining us.
Brood Awakenings is located on Route 16 across Napa. They're open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., I believe. And you can get food there. You can make copies there. There's internet there. Everything's there.
There's Bitcoin. They got
Bitcoin there. And there's plugs everywhere in case you need to charge your phone and all of that good stuff.
Deliza Munya Castro says, I'd like to make a birthday shout out to my Uncle Joe Munya and Auntie Bernice again. I have an Auntie Bernice too. Well, happy birthday to Uncle Joe and Auntie Bernice. I have an Auntie Bernice too. You know, my grandma named her kids like, you know, those back in the day names. So I have an Auntie Eleanor, who I'm almost certain is named after Eleanor Roosevelt, and Auntie Bernice, because, you know, that's like the fancy American name.
I want to go to your family gathering that they make those, it's almost like graham crackers with the nuts on it.
That's my Auntie Carol.
I want that.
That's my Auntie Carol who makes that. She's like she's the best baker in our family.
It's delicious.
And she makes prune cake. I think she was the first to bring that not Funyun, what is that, funnel cake thing? Mm-hmm. She started doing that at the Humatic Discovery Day festivals.
Yeah, I jacked a lot of that, a lot of that thing. Like,
when I saw them at my dad's viewing, I was like, oh wow, we're gonna have good food at the viewing. Anyway, so.
Hi, Thadia.
Oh yeah, let's say hi to
Jason.
everybody. Hi, Jason,
What's up,
from
Jason?
San Antonio. Who won the Texas primary? Was it Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders? I don't remember. Hi, Joanne Fullerton and Sylvia Tapasia. Buenas Deliza. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Mike Grace Blas says, shout out to my own chick in all caps. All caps.
Who says that?
Mike Grace Blas.
His own.
What's his own chick's name?
I think it's Grace. Oh. And if it's not, he has some explaining to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Cello, you have your microphone on?
Hi.
All right. So we're going to start off our show discussing two very interrelated topics dealing with the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. And if there was any big news today, it was the CNMI, except that we need to bring to you something that just came to us right before we came online, and that is a letter from Joint Region to Speaker Tina Munya Barnes regarding her request on the coronavirus. Rear Admiral Minoni, I don't know what his first name is. I think it's John Minoni, wrote to the Speaker yesterday in reply to her January 24 letter requesting status of Joint Region Mariana's COVID-19 monitoring and readiness. He says, I share your concerns for the health and preparedness of our military and community on Guam in light of the growing COVID-19 outbreak. My team has joined with Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services to be part of the regional interagency COVID-19 coordination group led by the State Center for Disease Control liaison station on Guam, Dr. Thane Hancock. I swear that could be a porn name. Like, I swear if you search that name on like red tube or something. Something's gonna pop up. I'm just kidding, Dr. Hancock.
I'm sure.
This group meets regularly to receive COVID-19 updates, discuss status of impacts to Guam and the region, Guam and other local government needs, and overall readiness measures. In addition, I have a COVID-19 internal working group to plan, assess, and execute military readiness on Guam in accordance with overarching Department of Defense guidance. The COVID-19 situation is challenging and dynamic, but we are taking all factors into account to assure the best prevention and readiness measures. You specifically asked about military personnel arriving on Guam from installations where their host nation has COVID-19 in its vicinity. These personnel are health screened prior to deployment and monitored upon arrival. Interesting, considering we can bring that up as a rumor that's circulating in just a bit. Recent DoD guidance required all DoD commands worldwide to monitor and restrict the movement of any uniformed or civilian personnel exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19. All DoD commands are required to regulate official and personal travel in accordance with the risk advisories published by the CDC. Additionally, military personnel from foreign partner nations participating in current military exercises on Guam have been required to undergo health screening prior to deployment and upon arrival in Guam. Currently, there are no reported COVID-19 cases for the military or military personnel on Guam. Let me repeat that. As of yesterday, in his letter to the Speaker, Admiral Manoni says, currently, there are no reported COVID-19 cases for the military or military-related personnel on Guam. As the situation develops, my team will continue to work with Guam DPHSS to ensure appropriate measures are in place to protect the military and civilian community on Guam. I thank you for your sincere interest in facilitating our mutual desire for transparency and information sharing with the people of Guam, especially in this health and safety matter. Now, today, I think as the result of a growing rumor in the community, the Department of, well, actually, it was a joint effort, including Joint Region, and Department of Public Health and Social Services and the Governor's Office in Guam Homeland Security put out another news release saying, you know, despite whatever rumors, there is no confirmed cases of COVID-19. I think they even say no suspected or no person under investigation. It's a PUI, person under investigation. And that likely came out because of the rumor. You want to talk about
that? It was on base. The guy's off
Navy
ships.
or
Anderson. Yeah.
There's some rumor floating around that there are actually 12 persons under investigation or exhibiting.
But it's just a rumor.
Just a rumor. But we figure in order to control this kind of stuff, we can speak about it as being a rumor, so that everyone understands that the authorities have not confirmed that information. And so there you have it. If you come across that information, maybe don't flip out, because we're supposed to trust that these authorities are not lying to us.
They had a big meeting today on
Okay.
how they're going to handle it, the economy, the coronavirus, the
Oh,
governor.
is that the one over here at
Yes,
Packstar?
yes.
And the superintendent was over at that one?
Yeah, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Everyone was in attendance
Oh, okay. Oh, good for them.
to figure out how they're going to, this coronavirus, their pandemic response, because they haven't updated the response in 12 years, they said.
I think the pandemic response plan was in 2008.
Yeah, so 12 years.
Yeah.
So they're updating that. I guess they went there to put all the minds together to update that Guam's response.
Okay.
Right? And then they also discussed the economic side as well.
Okay. Well,
Our economy.
that actually is the topic of grave concern in the Commonwealth. And because of the coronavirus situation, a couple things have happened. One of them has received a whole lot of play in the media, both in the local Saipan media and through Kandit. The other has kind of been the effects of which have been downplayed. And as I was looking at this executive order that was issued by then acting Governor Arnold Palacios, I noticed some things and I started to do some research, and it kind of my mind is floored a bit at just the breadth of this declaration or this order that was issued by, at that time, acting Governor Arnold Palacios. This was just a few days ago in the Commonwealth. But Governor Ralph Torres came out with a presentation to the Commonwealth Legislature about how their budget, which at the beginning of the fiscal year was at, I think, is $258 million for their local government. Now they anticipate that the revenues to be collected would only be $90 million.
Yeah.
And that has to mean, and that only $20 million will be collected for the remainder of the fiscal year. So we're just about halfway through the fiscal year, and the governor and the governor's administration now anticipate only $20 million will come in. Just understanding how almost impossible, actually, how impossible it is to fund the government for the remainder of the fiscal year, not to mention the fact that that must mean that in the first half of the fiscal year, only $70 million out of $129 million that was budgeted to have been spent in the first half of the fiscal year was actually spent. So 70 million out of 129, what's the quick math on that? Like 55%? Like it's like 55% of what actually was, or something like that, what actually was supposed to have been spent. And if the government was running along as it was, except for the public school system, which was under austerity the entire time, but if the other agencies were lifted from austerity beginning in December of last year, that means that a whole lot of tax refunds, a whole lot of vendor payables, maybe debt service, and remittances to the retirement fund were not paid in the first half of the fiscal year. And that sure as hell means that those things will not be paid in the final half of the fiscal year, and that there will need to be both layoffs and reductions in hours even further. And even if you did all those things, unless you're gonna lay off more than half of the government workforce there and just stop paying a whole bunch of things, they're still gonna have to get some sort of cash bailout from somewhere. And that's probably why Governor Ralph Torres wrote to President Trump asking for some kind of assistance, because that is the math is not.
It's only just begun.
Yeah, it has. And Jacob Nakamura is asking, what's that noise? It sounds like someone filing their nails. Oh, that's my leg shaking on the microphone wire, sorry.
He would pick that up.
Yeah.
He would hear that.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, Ashley Rod Hernandez is wondering that too, if someone is scratching. Sorry. Well, anyway, so they're in a very big quagmire there, and that's probably why a couple of things have happened. One, and we'll get to that in just a second, it has to deal with the public school system and some drastic changes that are about to happen to the detriment of the education of the Commonwealth's children. But there was an executive order that was issued by Acting Governor Arnold Palacios, and let me just bring it up for you. You can go ahead and cast to my screen. It's Executive Order 20-02, and it says it's about the coronavirus. And yes, everything in this executive order is premised on the destruction that the coronavirus issue is causing to the economy of the Commonwealth and its government, because, whatever, right? So this was signed February 28th, so that was what, 6 days ago?
Yeah.
And I want to call your attention to these words right here. He says, additionally, I hereby invoke my authority under Article 3, Section 10 of the Commonwealth Constitution and Public Law 18-4, subsection 104C, to take all necessary measures to address the threats facing the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, including but not limited to the authority to 1, suspend all statutory or regulatory provisions as required, and 2, utilize all available resources of the Commonwealth government and its political subdivisions as reasonably necessary to respond to the emergency. And as I was reading it, I thought, wow, that kind of looks a lot like a declaration of martial law or something like that. And so I wanted to find out what these sections of the Constitution and what that public law actually means. You can go ahead and cast off my screen because I'm going to go to some proprietary stuff. And so Section 10 of the Constitution under that Article 3 says, it's called emergency powers. The governor may declare a state of emergency in the case of invasion, civil disturbance, natural disaster, or other calamity as provided by law, and may mobilize available resources to respond to that emergency. So the Constitution gives the governor extraordinary powers that need to be refined by law, and those powers were refined in Public Law 18-4. And so when we go to that, my stuff is all over the place. Go ahead and cast on my screen. Public Law 18-4 does refine the governor's emergency powers, and it says that during a state of major disaster or significant emergency, and significant emergency does include something like the coronavirus, the governor may suspend the provision of any administrative regulation prescribing procedures for conducting Commonwealth business or the order, rules, and administrative regulations of any other Commonwealth agency if strict compliance would prevent, hinder, or delay necessary actions, including the making of emergency purchases. So first of all, he gets to suspend anything that gets in his way of responding to the coronavirus or anything. So if you read this executive order, the governor or the acting governor, Arnold Palacios, made everything that is happening in the Commonwealth like attached to this coronavirus thing. Everything, the economy, the finances, the day-to-day operations of the government, everything, if you read this executive order. And what this public law that grants the governor these emergency powers says that he can suspend anything that gets in the way of addressing the emergency, which in this case is the coronavirus. And then it also says that he can do anything to spend money on this stuff. And it goes on. Utilize all available resources of the Commonwealth government and its political subdivisions as reasonably necessary to respond to the major disaster or a state's significant emergency. This is a blank check. It doesn't even say subject to appropriation by the legislature. The legislature just grants the governor a blank check, and this was a public law written by former Speaker Ralph Demapan, approved by Governor Enos. Ralph Torres was the Senate president at the time. This passed the Commonwealth legislature in the 18th legislature, and gives Governor Ralph Torres a blank check to do anything that he wants, move resources anywhere he wants, from any program, from any branch, whatever the legislature has said in the current budget, don't matter. Now the governor, by this executive order, under the powers enumerated by this law and the Constitution, has a blank check. But that's not even the craziest part. Part 4 says, mobilize all or any part of the organized militia into service. An executive order directing the organized militia to report for active duty shall state the purpose for which it is mobilized and the objective to be accomplished. Palacios opened the door for an actual declaration of martial law in the Commonwealth. Yeah, but I don't know, and I don't remember seeing this in any of the other news stations about just how far-reaching this executive order is in granting the governor basically like absolute power within the Commonwealth to do anything that he wants, even though he's already done everything that he's wanted. Now he gets to do it even more and legally. Has the legislature looked into this? Does anyone understand just
what just happened?
Yeah, on February 28th of this year. And then everything starts to make sense about what's happening with the public school system. Where today we find out, it was breaking news in Kandit, that the public school system has decided to cut the work day or cut the work week by 1 day. So it's a 20% reduction in hours for teachers, and it's also a 20% reduction in the number of days that kids go to school. And I was wondering, because the CNMI has the same instructional days statute that we have, that the kids have to be in school for 180 days. Under this executive order, the governor can declare that that interferes with the coronavirus thing. And so, because I was wondering, how are they going to do this? How are they have to like repeal that 180-day statute? Not anymore. The governor gets to decide that it's the right thing to do. And there's a whole lot of backlash against this decision to cut the number of instructional days for the kids, because it seems to be that public school system is taking the brunt of the cuts. And there was I got a hold of correspondence from the acting commissioner on education, Kimo Rosario, who for the school system, you can go ahead and cast on my screen, sort of laid out what has happened over the past 2 fiscal years with PSS, where in the FY19 budget, they were supposed to be given $42.3 million, but they ended up getting only some $37 million when FY19 was done. And then for the following fiscal year, the legislature reduced their budget to only $37.7 from $42.3 million. But that's just their budget. In actuality, they had to revise the budget because of austerity, and from $42 million that they were supposed to be getting the prior year, they're down in fiscal year 2020 to only $14.8 million. And this was before Governor Ralph Torres made his announcement about only $20 million left to collect in fiscal year 2020. So this is going to go down even further. And it was based on this $14.8 million that they came up with a whole bunch of different scenarios for what they were going to do. And it involved either reductions in force as a plan B, if plan A didn't work, and plan A was a sort of assortment of cuts in hours or cuts in work days throughout the public school system. They ended up today deciding on one of those, and it's already receiving a whole lot of heat. But if you guys think that what happened today was bad, I mean, just wait until the governor starts flexing his authority.
Can the people of the Sinamay sue the government because the children aren't?
Not under this martial law.
You know what I'm saying?
Everyone's seeking an injunction right now, but I think Johnny might be right. If the governor's emergency powers have been activated,
Sounds like a transformer.
then I don't know, like a fat transformer. I just don't know what anyone can do unless the legislature revokes the power.
Okay, let's say he does this, he does other things that goes against the people of the CNMI, and money is spent where it shouldn't have spent, like consultants and the usual, right? The MO of Ralph Torres, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can, at the end of that, when it comes back, can the federal authorities come back in and hold him accountable?
I would think so. It's just, I mean, if he broke a federal statute, maybe it was federal grant money that was used. Mm-hmm. If the agency where the money came from accepts $10,000 or more in federal contributions, then yeah, under Section 666 of Title 18, he can be charged with something. But as far as the local government goes, they wrote him a blank check. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm sure the governor of Guam would love that kind of power.
We don't have that here.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, the governor's emergency powers are severely limited by the legislature, and for good reason. Jacob Nakamura says, acting Governor Palacios, funny, I just saw Ralph the other day. He is here on Saipan. But it was on February 28, Jacob. Jacob is looking for a golden retriever puppy to deal with his emotional distress over the coronavirus. Joe Viana Joseph says progress only for the wealthy. And Rods Fernandez responding to Garrett Jackson, who was talking about a 38% cut in teacher pay. Top official got their 80% increase. Matter of fact, I think Governor Ralph Torres he went from $70,000 a year to $125,000 a year salary. Is that 80%?
Sounds like Angel Devil Pun.
Yeah.
I mean, what's his name? Angel.
Uh,
The one at the
Sablan.
Angel Sablan.
Yeah, yeah. He was very nice to you at the interview. Alpha baby.
I know your family.
I know. From Sinhanya, right? Equade sa corrupted. Very sad what's happening in the Commonwealth. And if there are any legislators listening, I would think you guys want to review Public Law 18-4 because the legislature granted Governor Ralph Torres a lot of power. And is this the time that you want to give him that much power? And I mean, I understand he's the governor and he needs to be able to do the job to protect the people of the Commonwealth from coronavirus, but does he really need a blank check to do that? I don't know. I don't think so.
No, correction. According to Jacob, the governor went from $70,000 a year to $5.7 million. Josepha Kaipat says, Pura hat talkie.
Well, we're going to go on a commercial break, but let's thank our sponsors, Brewed Awakenings first, the sponsor of our Wednesday show. Thank you to all of our advertisers, the ones you see on our commercials that are about to pop up, and the commercials that are under production right now, and to those who
don't have their name on our show.
Yes, and don't forget
all of you viewers.
And don't forget, you can donate to us on our website, kanditnews.com. Mm-hmm. You can also, if you want to advertise with us, especially if you're a political candidate who we have not trashed, our email address is news@kanditnews.com, and you can call me at 456-4237 or Johnny at 797-7082. When we come back, we are going to bring you profiles and Courage Leonora Leon Guerrero.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
Hafaday, this is Congressman Michael Nicholas. Our veterans deserve the best, and I'm working hard to make sure they receive what they earned defending our freedom. If you need help receiving the benefits you earned from the VA or the Defense Department, please call my office at 475-6453 or go online at stnicholas.house.gov. On behalf of a grateful community, thank you for your service.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael Nicholas.
After Guam, si Rod's Gimpap introducing the 2020 Toyota Tacoma Access Cap T-Max. Este na mês, gasto mo yung promo ng United Airlines, $1,000 United vouchers. Often ang nangga, sabik man manono si Tacoma, Guam, Tacoma territory. Text Rod's, ginagi Atkins Pro Toyota, 671-788-2584. Alam bro, go si Rod's, sinanagan sa 671-788-2584. Often ang nangga, let's go places.
The Port 7 was originally designed to be the Port 6. It wasn't until after the first 6 seaport workers were fired that a major kink in the Calvo administration's plan was found that threatened to ruin the entire conspiracy for them that a 7th worker was sacrificed. 6 of the Port 7 workers fired following a political witch hunt were terminated on December 18, 2012. The 7th member, Leonora Leon Guerrero, wasn't fired from the seaport until she refused to lie for Joanne Brown, Dan Tidinko, and attorney Mike Phillips. Miss Leon Guerrero worked in the port safety office under
then Administrator Frank Roberto. Ms. Brown, who was the general manager at the time, notified her on February 19, 2013, of her proposed firing, which took effect a few weeks later in a final notice of adverse action. In the December 2012 investigation report against the original 6 workers, Bernadette Meno, Vivian Leon, Francine Rocio, Jojo Guevara, Josette Havelosa, and Francis Ariola, Port Management premised its entire case on the so-called forgery of workers' compensation document. The document, called a GWC 101A, authorizes an employee who has been injured, in this case Ms. Meno, to receive medical attention. The GC 101A for Ms. Meno was issued on September 26, 2011, 4 days after Ms. Meno's work injury, by the Port Safety Office upon the instructions of its investigator, Paul Salas, and with the documented knowledge of Mr. Roberto. It was Ms. Leon Guerrero who prepared the document under Mr. Salas's instruction. In order to charge the 6 workers with forgery, Port Management relied on the accusations in Mr. Phillips' investigation report, which stated, quote, Ms. Anisha Terlahi, then Deputy Seaport Manager, has been very closely involved in Mrs. Meno's case from the start. Although there are no witnesses to Mrs. Meno's alleged slip and fall at the port, Ms. Terlahi filled out the workers' compensation forms, stating that Mrs. Meno did so. Interestingly, Ms. Terlahi scratched out the September 26, 2011 representation that medical attention was not authorized, amending the form to note 101A issued. This 101A authorization for medical attention was fraudulently issued. Mr. Roberto says it did not originate from his office as required and says he does not know where it came from. Mr. Lahi also misrepresented that Mrs. Meno went to GMH as the workers' compensation law required of her, whereas no 101A to GMH was written at the time or shortly thereafter because she refused medical attention. The Calvo administration's contention was that Mrs. Leon and Ms. Meno forged the GWC 101A so that Ms. Meno could make a false workers' compensation claim based on a non-authorized medical treatment form. It wasn't until after the 6 workers were fired in mid-December 2012 that the Calvo administration realized the basis of its entire case was false. The GWC 101A, which neither Ms. Meno nor Ms. Leon ever saw, actually was prepared by the Port Safety Office on September 26, 2011, and sent to the Guam Workers' Compensation Commission. An email from Mr. Roberto surfaced that proved the document came from his office. Ms. Leon Guerrero, under questioning, even told the port's attorneys that their claim that the document was forged was in error, as she pointed at her initials and said she in fact signed and sent that document. The link solidifying the evidence that the 6 workers were indeed innocent was the worker who prepared and delivered the document on September 26, 2011, Leonora Leon Guerrero. In January 2013, the Calvo administration panicked and did the only thing it thought it could do: pressure Ms. Leon Guerrero to lie. Ms. Brown called Ms. Leon Guerrero into meetings with 3 attorneys, each of them attempting to convince Ms. Leon Guerrero to sign an affidavit stating that Ms. Leon Guerrero did not submit the proper form and replaced it with a forgery under pressure from Ms. Leon and Ms. Meno. They told her that if she signs this affidavit, she would not be fired. She refused. On February 19, 2013, Ms. Brown issued a notice of proposed adverse action against Ms. Leon Guerrero. 2 days later, Ms. Leon Guerrero replied to Ms. Brown in her defense, quote, "The main allegation made by legal counsel that you appear to have accepted in the NPAA is that I falsified documents relating to workers' compensation claim made by Bernadette Meno. This is not true," end quote. She explained what actually happened regarding the document, which completely destroyed the lies being pushed publicly by Mike Phillips, Joanne Brown, Dan Tidinko, and Governor Calvo. Leon Guerrero told Brown in her response, quote, On or about September 26, 2011, Paul Salas requested a GWC 101A for his investigation regarding Mrs. Meno. A GWC 101A authorizes an employee who has been injured to receive medical attention. The GWC 101A that I gave to Mr. Salas for Ms. Meno identified Guam Memorial Hospital as the treating facility. I received the GWC 202 signed by the Deputy General Manager Anisha Terlahi that indicated no medical attention had been authorized. Based on the information I had at the time, I corrected and initialed that form to show a GWC 101A had been issued. I also indicated, based on the issuance of a GWC 101A, medical attention had been authorized. I am not an investigator and do not know whether Mrs. Meno actually sought medical treatment. I only indicated that a GWC 101A had been issued. I did not have any reason to look at any of these documents again until January 2013, when I was told by Mr. Roberto that the Port's legal counsel wanted to speak with me. I was cooperative with the Port's legal counsel and met with them several times. 3 attorneys with the Port's legal counsel essentially interrogated me each time. During these meetings, the attorneys repeatedly tried to get me to say that Mary Torres or Vivian Leon directed me to alter the GWC 101A and GWC 202. When I explained that no one had directed me to do anything, they became upset. I have been a part of the Port's family for almost 5 years now. During the time, I've never refused or failed to perform my duties and responsibilities as a planner work coordinator. I never falsified any records. I never misused or stole government property. I have, however, refused to lie on behalf of the Port's legal counsel. As required by Guam law, I have advised my immediate supervisor of the Port legal counsel's misconduct. After my meetings with the Port's legal counsel, Paul Salas approached me and explained that Attorney Phillips instructed him to return to the office and tell me that I was going to lose my job and that criminal charges will follow. I believe that this adverse action has been proposed by legal counsel in attempt to discredit or silence me. I also believe that this proposed adverse action is in retaliation for my refusal to say that Mary Torres or Vivian Leon directed me to do anything. Based on these grounds, I ask that you reconsider the proposed adverse actions against me, end quote. Joanne Brown and Mike Phillips do not want to hear the truth. They wanted Leonora Leon Guerrero to lie. She refused. Her defiance led to her termination. She was fired for refusing to lie about what really happened. 1 year later, Ms. Leon Guerrero and the rest of the Port 7 were appealing their terminations. She sent an email to her attorney, Levin Camacho, detailing the continued witness tampering by the Calvo administration in order to save their case and prevent criminal charges against them. Quote, earlier this evening at about 5:30 p.m., my husband, John Leon Guerrero, had contacted me at work and informed me that he was asked by PAG's DGM, Felix Pangilinan, to speak with him. John had explained the following incident to me. As John was getting ready to end his workday at about 4:40 p.m., he drove his vehicle to the main gate of PAG so that he can flush his windshield of his vehicle. As he was about to exit his vehicle, Floriano Javier Jr. drove up with the PAG golf cart and informed him that the DGM, Felix Pangilinan, wanted to speak with him, and he was in the front. John responded okay and proceeded to drive to the front of the PAG admin building. As he drove up to the front of the admin building in the smoking area, he approached DGM Felix Pangilinan and Procurement Administrator Alma Javier. He had asked Felix Pangilinan, "What's up?" And Felix had asked him if he could spare 15 minutes of his time to speak with him in his office. John replied yes, and Felix advised to just park his vehicle and he will meet him in his office. John had parked the vehicle and proceeded to Felix's office through the GM stairway. As John entered Felix's office, Felix closed the door behind him. Felix began informing John that he was not in any trouble. He then asked John, "How is Leonora doing?" John replied, "She's good." He then asked John, "Is she working?" John replied, "Yes, she is." Felix then began saying, "Your wife is a good worker and a good employee. We need people like that here at the port. We want to offer her her job back." John replied, "Really?" Felix then said, "I spoke with GM Joanne Brown and Maria Titano, and everyone agreed to reinstate her." John then replied, "What's the catch?" Felix then said, "All she will have to do is write and sign an affidavit stating who instructed her to do what she did." John then replied, "My wife did not do anything wrong." Felix then said, "We will give her immunity, drop all charges, clear her name, and reinstate her. All she has to do is write and sign the affidavit of who instructed her to do what she did." He then went on to say, "Your wife is a good person. She just got caught up in the mix." John replied, "She does not even know those people." Felix then said, "Everybody there shouldn't have been terminated except Bernadette and Vivian. They were bad managers because all they had to do was explain to the board that they instructed all these people under them to do what they did and take back the papers and redo it. Vivian and Bernadette were the ones that thought of all of this." John then responded, "Yeah, but my wife didn't do anything." Felix then said, "We are offering this to everybody that got terminated. Your wife, Josette, Francine, Francis. Keep in mind, this is a limited time offer. The only ones that we are not offering this to will not accept back is Vivian and Bernadette. Just talk to your wife because I know she's going to say she didn't do anything wrong." John replied, "Because she didn't." Felix then said, "Well, just talk to her, and if she agrees, we'll set it up where she can come in and meet with the GM and settle this so we can reinstate her. And if she does not want to come back, that's okay. No hard feelings." John then replied, "Do you think my wife is going to want to come back and work in the same office as Frank Roberto and Paul Solis, the people that got her into this mess in the first place?" Felix then shook John's hand, hugged him, and said, "Just talk to her about it." John then exited Felix's office and left the building. At the time of her firing, Miss Leon Guerrero was not even an acquaintance of either Miss Meno or Miss Leon or any of the other fired port employees. She had been threatened that if she didn't lie for the Calvo administration, she would lose her job. Rather than saving herself, she sided with the truth and has been made to suffer ever since. If this isn't the hallmark of integrity and good conscience, we couldn't tell you what is. Despite the overwhelming financial and emotional impact this attack had on Miss Leon Guerrero, she gathered the courage to publicly take a stand last March against the nomination of former port chairman Dan Tidinko to be on the airport board of directors. Tidinko was nominated by the current governor, Lou Leon Guerrero, despite Tidinko being a major contributor, support, and close confidant of Eddie Calvo for many years. A portion of her testimony, which details her fight against the injustice and her ability to stand her ground and protect her integrity at all costs, is as follows and details what happened after she won her case in the Civil Service Commission following 7 days of testimony in a full hearing on the merits. Quote, "Subsequently, after the hearing, the port filed an appeal with the Superior Court and later Supreme Courts of Guam. The case has been tied up for years in the court, as Mr. Tidinko and former GM Joanne Brown directed the continued litigation at a very expensive cost to me and my family. A recent Supreme Court ruling dealing with the burden of proof now brings my case back to the CSC for further discussions on burden of proof. Needless to say that many years of litigations have been overwhelming both financially and emotionally. During the onset of this event, I was the most infant in the rank and file of this group that was terminated. I was just beginning my career with the Port Authority of Guam and was employed for only 4 years and 11 months. I joined this agency in March of 2008 with hopes to successfully contribute to the agency with my expertise and skills to be instrumental in the movement of positive change within the agency and to the island. But when Mr. Tidinko directed this investigation to take place, he had his legal counsel come after me and harass me. I was subjected to harassment by the PAG legal counsel, Mike Phillips, while being questioned about documents and trying to be influenced under false pretense to take a direction toward an event that never occurred. Legal counsel yelled at me, threatened me if I did not change my story. I was told I would be criminally prosecuted if I did not say what they wanted me to say. But I refused to lie for Dan Tidinko and Mike Phillips, and so I was fired and accused of committing crimes. To be clear, during my time at the port, I never refused or failed to perform my duties and responsibilities as a planner work coordinator. I never falsified any records. I never misused or stole government property. I have, however, refused to lie on behalf of the port's legal counsel. As required by Guam law, I advised my immediate supervisor of the port's legal counsel's conduct. As required by Guam law, I advised my immediate supervisor of the port legal counsel's misconduct. After my meetings with the port's legal counsel, my supervisor approached me and explained that attorney Mike Phillips instructed him to return to the office and tell me that I was going to lose my job and that criminal charges will follow. I believe that this adverse action and termination was proposed by Dan Tidinko and legal counsel in an attempt to discredit or silence me. I also believe that this proposed action was in retaliation for my refusal to say that Mary Torres or Vivian Leon directed me to do anything. So yes, despite this traumatic experience, I stood my ground. I was shocked that the board chairman, Dan Tidinko, the very individual that we as employees trusted to have had the best interests of the employees and the port at heart, would go to such great lengths to lie about events and destroy so many innocent people. And for the record, having been wrongfully terminated and publicly defamed is one of the most humiliating things an individual can endure. But even in my most fearful and darkest moments regarding this event, not once have I ever thought of benefiting myself so as to lie for Dan Tidinko, Mike Phillips, Joanne Brown, and others to keep my job. Integrity and accountability is everything to me with respect to my duties and responsibilities that I have been entrusted to carry out both in my civilian and military career. In no way, shape, or form have I or ever will I allow my integrity to be compromised. Sadly, we can't say the same for Mr. Daniel J. Tidinko. I urge you to reject his nomination, end quote. Tidinko's nomination was met with massive opposition and testimony regarding his corruption, so he was never allowed to serve on the airport board. Up until now, Dan Tidinko continues to try and assert his control over the attempts to obtain justice for the Port 7. He is constantly meeting with the governor and trying to influence her decisions, as well as those of the former port legal counsel and board members. Despite his efforts, the port has already reinstated 3 of the Port 7, including Leonora Leon Guerrero. Candid News will not stop until these victims have justice for what was done and what is currently being done against them.